April 6th, 2017. Governing body member Mark Sanderson can be seen here in attendance at the Russian Supreme Court, awaiting the decision on whether or not they will decide to ban Watchtower Society activities and literature throughout Russia. And now for your feature presentation. NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association. I'm not you. This is what happens when you take human rights way too far. NAMBLA. I'm Son of Thunder, and I approve this message. Testing. April 6th, 2017. Russia upholds the ban on Watchtower Society, the Russian Supreme Court. And understandably, you're not quite sure how to feel about it. So please allow me, but stay tuned.
Hey, Russia banned Watchtower. What do you think? Isn't it awesome? What do you think? Isn't it cool? What do you think? You don't like my phone? Russia banned Watchtower Society. Isn't that awesome? Let's see your tail. Isn't that awesome? Whoa, you like it, don't you? Watchtower is banned in Russia. Isn't that a good thing? It is a good thing. It is. Yes, it is. See? He said it. It is a good thing. See? He said it again.
Конституция Российской Федерации, 28 статья, она гарантирует свободу вероисповедания. Поэтому я считаю, что это, да, посягательство на свободу вероисповедания.
Ну, я сам свидетель Иеговы, у меня друзья свидетели Иеговы. Я многих знаю. И они, знаете, простые люди, и могут пострадать из-за этого решения. Их религиозные верования могут признать экстремистскими, и таким образом могут начаться гонения.
I think it's a terrible idea.
I'm Son of Thunder. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be a little bit controversial because we have a bit of a divide on how everyone is saying that they feel about the ban in Russia on Watchtower Society. And understandably so. So today we're going to look at both sides of the argument, and we're going to look at both sides honestly. And what I want to make sure about you is that whatever decision or however you feel about it, you might watch this whole video and still feel the same way you did in the beginning. But I want to make sure that you came to that conclusion on your own and that you're not letting someone else think for you. Now, I might say something that sounds right or sounds reasonable. Doesn't mean I'm right, though. Doesn't mean it's the correct way to feel. Doesn't mean it's the correct way to think. But it might still make sense when I explain it. You know, Jehovah's Witnesses, they have a way of making you think their religion is true, making you think they go doctrinally according to the Bible, for example. And they have a way of presenting it. And at first glance, you might think, wow, that makes sense. They're right. But then, you consider all points. You consider extra evidence. And then your view might change. So let's take a look at an opposing view to mine. I believe that Watchtower should be banned, and I'll have some evidence to show you why they should be banned. Not just according to the law in Russia, but according to human rights. But another side of the story is what we'll see next. So, stay tuned. Now, to get the opposing view, we're going to take a trip to John Cedars' channel, where he has been staunchly, actively opposing the ban that Russia is imposing on Watchtower Society. He gives his reasons why, the most compelling of which, well, I'll let you listen to him break it down in summary with his interview with the BBC.
I want to return to a story. The Christian movement Jehovah's Witnesses, they could be declared an extremist organisation in Russia this week. That case is currently before their Supreme Court. If you're with the programme OS earlier, you will have heard a member of the group in Russia saying how difficult it was to practice. Let's talk now to Lloyd Evans, a former Jehovah's Witness, author of The Reluctant Apostate. You're very welcome to the programme, Lloyd. Well, let me start with the idea of banning the group in Russia, as the Russian government wants to do. What's your thoughts on it?
Hello, Nuala. I think it's a terrible idea. There are three main reasons why I'm opposed to the ban on Jehovah's Witnesses. First reason is human rights, fairly obviously. Everyone should be free to believe according to their conscience.
Okay, so argument number one, human rights. Now, I've heard the rebuttal that what about the human rights of the rest of us who don't want to be Jehovah's Witnesses, the ones who are shunned, the children who don't get the blood transfusions, and the people who commit suicide? What about their human rights? And you can't just gloss over that, right? I'm going to show you some shocking bits of evidence, and I'm also going to show you what Russia is saying about Watchtower and evidence that what they are saying is so. Follow along. So here I'd like you to be the judge if Watchtower is, as the Russian government is saying, spreading hate to its members. This is a comment I received, and we're going to read it out together, and you tell me where you think they got these ideas. So it reads, from Christopher Allen on YouTube a few days ago to my Russian ban video, the one where I petition everyone to write counter letters. He says, I never thought you people really existed. Of course, you guys know what that means. He's talking about us apostates, like the name they call us, mentally diseased.
He does exist!
They do exist. Santa?
And he says, but Satan does, so his children do also. What a joke. Watch what happens in your lives. Basically saying we're going to be wrecked by God, or we're just going to have some sort of bad luck because of our opposition to Watchtower. And he says, you cannot attack God or his people. I'm sorry, but you are a pathetic joke. So we are being called here, just for leaving Watchtower, children of Satan. Now, about the human rights. See, I didn't have to go far to find that. That was just one of the first ones I stumbled across that I took a snapshot to put on this video. This happens all the time. I get a steady stream of hate messages, and especially because of the disfellowshipping video, I've got people watching my channel every day, all the time, and I have a steady stream, as I call it, of hate. And this attitude is not rare. This is how they actually feel. Just some people will manifest it. Some people will say it. But it's all how they feel. Like he said, I never knew you people existed. Satan does, so does his children. So we're Satan's children. Don't you think this is a damaging attitude? Don't you think that this can lead to problems when this is how they feel in their heart about us, about their own family, even? All of you. I'm really surprised that human rights is even brought up here. We're not even talking about the blood and the shunning and the children. This is just about the attitude. But let's move along.
The second reason is persecution complex. I think that with Jehovah's Witnesses, a lot of the teachings and beliefs are oriented around the Satan's world coming after them, and this sort of action by the Russian authorities really kind of bolsters that kind of fear and paranoia.
So argument number 2, the persecution complex. Now, I find this to be the least valid of all the arguments, because who cares how they think if this is biblical persecution? If I started a cult, all right, and I'm just giving you my opinion, take it or leave it. If I started my own cult and I told the people joining me and following me, hey, I predict that some in your family might say, hey, I don't know about this guy. And when they say that, you will know I am the true prophet. And on Julian Watson's channel, he makes the great point. If they get banned, they'll claim persecution. If they don't get banned, they'll see that as proof of Jehovah's backing. It's a catch-22. Either way, their indoctrination wins. Just in case a Jehovah's Witness stumbles across this video trying to find out what happened in Russia, I wanted to share this scripture from your Bible, the New World Translation, which explains how you really should feel about what is going on in Russia. It's not the biblical persecution that Christ foretold. Rather, let's read what the scripture says. For it is agreeable when someone endures hardship and suffers unjustly because of conscience toward God. For what merit is there if you are beaten for sinning and you endure it? But if you endure suffering because of doing good, this is an agreeable thing to God. Now let's take a look and see if we can understand why Russia is banning Watchtower Society and if this is according to the law. Now let's follow along.
The Russian government wants to shut down Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia because of their extremist views and activity. The government claims their members share extremist literature. What is this so-called extremist literature? This article from Newsweek dated March 24, 2017 says, one of the pamphlets in question includes a quotation from the novelist Leo Tolstoy, referring to Russia's Orthodox Church as superstition and sorcery. Leo Tolstoy was a Russian writer who is regarded as one of the greatest authors of all time. So, when the Jehovah's Witnesses quoted from him saying that Russia's Orthodox Church was superstition and full of sorcery, they thought that people would take the comments seriously. And seriously they did. Vladimir Putin did too.
Forum 18 news service website, they help to define the extremism law. There it says, the provision of the extremism law most often used to penalize the exercise of the internationally recognized right to freedom of religion or belief is the definition of extremism as propaganda of the exclusivity, superiority or lack of equal worth of an individual on the basis of their religious adherence or attitude to religion. So, basically, the extremism law is against a religion that promotes the idea of exclusivity, or superiority, or the lack of equal worth of individuals. Do Jehovah's Witnesses promote this ideology? Do they claim exclusivity, or superiority of their religion over others? Their main magazine, called The Watchtower, had this to say on the subject. A positive spirit will also enable us to bear in mind the many blessings we enjoy because of being associated with the earthly part of Jehovah's organization. This is the only organization in the world that is loyal to the sovereign of the universe. So, according to them, Jehovah's Witnesses are the only ones loyal to God. No one else in the world is. The June 1, 2001 Watchtower said, millions of people throughout the world have evaluated the facts and have become convinced that Jehovah's Witnesses alone are practicing the true religion. And, is it presumptuous of Jehovah's Witnesses to point out that they alone have God's backing? Actually, no more so than when the Israelites in Egypt claimed to have God's backing in spite of the Egyptians' belief. Or when first-century Christians claimed to have God's backing to the exclusion of Jewish religionists. The facts speak for themselves. If Jehovah's Witnesses are distributing literature that promotes that type of thinking, then they fit the criteria for exclusivity and superiority. No wonder the Russian government views that as extremist literature. The governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses obviously don't want the shutdown of their churches in Russia, for this would mean losing all those properties.
Special thanks to that Out of the Woods YouTube channel for putting that presentation together. Listen carefully now. We're saying that we should shield Watchtower Society from all the terrible things it has done just because its members were told that this sort of thing would happen? I don't think so. But let's move along.
And the third reason is that, you know, by banning Jehovah's Witnesses, you're driving the organization underground, and that makes a lot of the more darker, more abusive practices harder to regulate.
Now, I gotta admit, and I need to give credit where credit's due. That was the one argument that really got me to think. Until I thought about it. Watchtower already successfully trains its members to cover things up like child abuse. Just look at the Australian Royal Commission. Remember that one? So to say that them going underground would make it harder to regulate them, I just don't understand what that means. How are they being regulated? The punishment for the crime is banning. They've done the crime. They were warned about three things, three main extremist things. The hate, okay, the superiority, everyone else is useless. You are these chosen people and everyone else is a child of Satan, as we see the attitudes from their members. Okay, the shunning and the blood. They were warned about that and they failed to heed that warning. So therefore, their punishment is to be banned, and it's going to cost them a lot of money. They have earned it. Let's not shield them from the consequences of hurting people, especially children, and people all the way up until their adult life are still messed up over this thing. And we want to make excuses to go against the ban. I mean, what are we doing this for? Let me just unplug this right now. I mean, finally, I mean, if you look at that lady talking to Cedars, she doesn't even seem to care. Like, it's hard to get people to care about our plight, and finally someone comes to care. And we have someone aggressively, actively, very vocally going against the ban and saying that it's a terrible idea.
I think it's a terrible idea.
I have to say I'm really, really shocked at this whole thing, and especially it was really sad for me to see comments under those particular videos where they're saying, oh, well, I thought it was good and now you helped me rethink it. There are comments like that. I post them, but I don't want to mess, you know, I don't want to do that to people. So let's rethink this whole thing. Tell me what you guys think. Put your comments down below. Do you still think that it's a bad idea to ban them? Have these little things that I presented swayed you in any way or not? Just let me know. I won't ban you from my channel. I won't delete your messages. I just want to know what you're thinking. Seeing these comments underneath really is a big reason that I made this video, because these comments really bother me and these people deserve the biggest voice out of all of us. So I'd like to just read it. I have their name, but I crossed it out just for privacy. But as it reads, it says, I have respect for Lloyd's work. He does work very hard and indeed helped so many. However, as a victim of abuse and having a mother who died as a result of refusing blood fractions that were not permitted at that time only to be permitted some years later, the horrific trauma suffered not just by myself, but the carryover into adulthood affects every aspect of one's life. So having to endure the horrific pain firsthand, I want this organization banned. Any crime that destroys lives so completely and absolutely, I argue, does indeed need to be banned. I say this in the context of this organization actively and with real rigor take extraordinary steps to legalize the life-shattering crimes under the pretense of a religious organization. In saying this, I still support this channel. And that is the beauty of having my own opinion, albeit in disagreement. What a perfect way to put this whole thing. So first of all, I'd like to say to the individual who wrote that message, most of us agree with you. So I apologize on behalf of that individual or whoever has put you off by saying they are against the ban. And that's a terrible situation that you've had to endure through. And if you ever want to come tell your story, we have a platform for it on the Vast Apostate Hour. And just know that most of us, nearly all of us, support everything you say, and this is why I'm making this video, is for people like you, for the victims, the true victims. We're all really victims, but there are some that are way more torn up than we are. Things that we can't even mention has happened to so many people. I get messages every day, and it's actually your messages that keep me making videos. Like, that's all I need. That's the fire that it just stays lit, is the messages that I get and just how I'm currently being treated by my own family. You know, most of you know a lot of my story, but it's not as bad as a lot of these stories that are coming forward now. So thanks again, everyone, for joining me. I appreciate all of your time. I hope everyone's doing okay out there. If you want to email me, just remember, here's my email, iamsonofthunder@gmail.com. I'll put a link to my Facebook. My Facebook is my name. There is a fake Facebook account that says Son of Thunder with my picture. That ain't me. So just make sure you don't try to contact, I don't know what's going on with that. So just make sure you use the link that I'll provide in the description. And that's all. So thanks again, everyone. Always remember that I am Son of Thunder, and I'm keeping watch for you. Until next time.
What are you talking about when you talk of abusive practices?
Well, for example, there are many witnesses in my situation at the moment who are being shunned by